My parents said they were too struggling to attend my graduation, so I celebrated alone. Then my cousin posted videos of their lavish vacation to Europe, paid for by unexpected funds. When they called, asking for my help to pay off their credit card debt, I didn't respond. I just sent a link to the vacation videos to every relative in our family chat. Their furious texts and calls didn't stop until morning. Hi Reddit. I'm Alia, 23F, and up until very recently, I was the kind of daughter who tried, really tried, to see the best in her parents, even when it was easier not to. I convinced myself for years that they loved me in their own way, that maybe they just struggled with showing it. That maybe their favoritism, their endless excuses, the way they acted like I owed them for existing, it was all just a misunderstanding. That they'd come around eventually. But what happened after my graduation stripped away any last bit of hope I had left. And it made me realize something. Not all villains come twirling mustaches or slamming doors. Some show up with cheerful smiles, telling you they love you while choosing to hurt you again and again. Let me give you some background. I grew up in a small town with my parents, Leona and Farid. From the outside, we were your average middle-class family, modest home, 2 working parents, and 1 child who, by all appearances, was doing just fine. That child was me. But the truth behind our front door was different. I was never enough for them. Not loud enough, not needy enough, not brilliant enough to be a source of pride. I got good grades, worked hard, stayed out of trouble. They never had to bail me out or worry if I'd disappoint them. And for that, I was treated more like an afterthought than a daughter. Now, enter Nima, my cousin on my dad's side. He's 2 years younger than me, and from the time we were kids, he could do no wrong in their eyes. If he got a C in math, it was because he was thinking on a more creative level. If I got an A, it was barely worth a comment because, of course, Alia did. She always does. When we were 16, my parents gave Nima my old bike, without asking me. When I was 19 and trying to save up for tuition, they borrowed from the savings account I'd been contributing to since I was 14 and forgot to pay me back. But the worst part was, they never treated it like they were doing something wrong. In their minds, it was always justified because we're family, and family helps each other. Of course, helping never seemed to go both ways. When I got into graduate school, they acted mildly supportive. My dad said, "Don't let it change you," which I still don't fully understand. My mom was more worried about how expensive it would be, even though I had secured scholarships and was working part-time on campus. So when my graduation approached this spring, I wasn't expecting them to throw a party or make signs. But I thought they'd come. I really thought they'd show up. I called them a month in advance, told them the date, time, and sent a link to where they could reserve a spot for the ceremony. At first, my mom said, "We'll try our best, sweetie." But the next week, the tone changed. "Your dad's work has been unpredictable lately, and the house still needs repairs. We're really cutting it close financially this month. Between groceries and Nima's dentist appointment. We wish we could be there, but it's just not a good time." I offered to help pay for the bus tickets. I told them I'd cover the hotel, that I just wanted them there. My mom hesitated and said, "We don't want to be a burden, honey. We'd only bring your energy down. You go and enjoy your day." I remember staring at the text for so long that my phone screen dimmed. The day of graduation came. I walked across the stage, cap a little too big on my head, heart pounding in my chest. I scanned the crowd. Strangers cheering, balloons bouncing, families waving. My hands didn't wave back at anyone. Afterward, I went home to my tiny apartment, still in my gown. I sat on the couch with a lukewarm container of noodles and tried to make myself feel proud. I even took a few pictures with the self-timer just so I'd have something to mark the day. My parents didn't call, not even a text until the next evening. "Hope everything went okay." Nima said congratulations. That message stayed unread for a while. I didn't tell them how much it hurt. I didn't tell them how I had waited outside the building after the ceremony for 10 minutes, just watching everyone else laugh and hug their families. I didn't say anything at all. But here's where things started to twist. About 3 weeks after graduation, I was on Instagram during a break from work. I don't usually follow my cousin Nima. His content is mostly flashy, loud, and not for me. But someone had tagged him in a story, and my curiosity got the best of me. I tapped on it. It was a video of Nima in a crowded square, grinning at the camera. Behind him stood the unmistakable silhouette of the Colosseum. I blinked. I watched the next story, him twirling pasta on a fork, bragging about the best carbonara in Rome. Then another, this time in a hotel room with floor-to-ceiling windows, and in the reflection behind him, I spotted a familiar figure, my mom. She was standing by the bed, holding a shopping bag from an upscale boutique. In the background, my dad's voice chimed in, laughing about getting used to the European lifestyle. It was like my lungs forgot how to work. They weren't just on vacation. They were on a multi-country tour. Rome, Venice, Paris, Amsterdam, Geneva, even a brief stop in Prague. For weeks they'd said nothing. Not a word. No social media posts. No, guess where we are, photos to the family chat. Nothing. They were careful. Until Nima decided to brag. And in one of his videos, posted in what looked like a wine cellar turned hotel lounge, he laughed and said, "Shout out to the unexpected funds that made this possible. Couldn't have done it without y'all." The comments were full of fire emojis and friends asking what he meant by unexpected funds. He didn't answer, but I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly what he meant. That night, I sat in bed, phone in hand, piecing everything together. The timing, the evasion, the guilt-tripping texts. My parents had lied about not being able to afford a trip to my graduation because they were already planning, or maybe even booking, a luxury vacation to Europe. The next morning, I received a message from my mom. "Hi honey, we're back. Sorry we were a bit MIA. The Wi-Fi was spotty and it was just a whirlwind. Hope everything's okay. Let's catch up soon." No mention of the graduation. No apology. Not even a hint of guilt. And then came the next message, only a few hours later, from my dad. "Alia, we're in a bit of a tight spot. The trip cost more than we expected. Can we talk sometime this week?" That was the moment something inside me shifted. I didn't answer their messages right away. I could have said something impulsive, sent a sarcastic welcome back, or thrown one of Nima's videos in their faces. But part of me needed time. Time to absorb what they'd done. Time to stop shaking from that cold, creeping mix of betrayal and disbelief. I didn't cry. That surprised me. There was no dramatic outburst. Just this quiet weight settling in my chest as I thought back over the last few years. The missed birthdays, the canceled plans, the "we'll try next time" texts I'd received whenever it involved something important to me. And now I knew. They hadn't been too poor or too overwhelmed to show up. They had just chosen not to. They chose Paris over me. Rome over me. They stood under the Eiffel Tower while I stood alone in my cap and gown. A few days passed, and then came the second wave of messages. First was my mom again. "Alia, we really need to talk. Your father and I are in a difficult situation. We were hoping we could count on you." Then, later that same night, my dad sent this. "We know you're busy, but you're the most responsible one in the family. This is a family emergency. Please don't shut us out." I stared at those words for a long time. Responsible one in the family. A phrase I'd heard all my life. It used to make me feel proud, important, but now it just felt like a trap. Like every time I did the right thing, it only made them more comfortable taking me for granted. That night, I called my best friend Lila. She was the only person I'd confided in about what was going on. "I just don't understand how they're not even pretending to be sorry," I said. Lila sighed. "Because they don't think they did anything wrong, Alia. They never have. To them, you're the fallback plan. You're always there, so they don't value you." I didn't say anything. "Seriously," she continued. "They could step on your dreams in steel boots and still expect you to patch their souls." On the fourth day, I finally opened the group chat. It's called Family First. My mom made it a few years ago. It had all the aunts, uncles, cousins, and even my grandmother, who's in her 80s and uses her phone mostly for weather updates and chain prayers. I rarely posted in there. Most messages were either photos of new babies or passive-aggressive reminders about who forgot whose birthday. But as I stared at that group chat, something in me clicked into place. They wanted help? Fine. I'd let the whole family help them understand what they'd done. I went back through Nima's stories, tagged posts, and TikToks. I found footage from every city. Him spinning in front of the Trevi fountain. My mom twirling in a new coat in Geneva. My dad clapping along to a street musician in Paris. I even found a video where Nima thanked his sponsors with a wink. I screen recorded everything. Then I created a Google Drive folder, titled it Alia's Graduation Highlights, and uploaded every single clip. No edits. No captions. Just evidence. At midnight, I dropped the link into the family chat. I said nothing. No explanation, no comments. Just the link. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. I woke up to chaos. By the time I checked my phone the next morning, there were over 80 unread messages. The first few were confused. Aunt Rima, what is this? Cousin Lena, did someone make a vacation montage? Then the tone shifted. Uncle David, wait, wasn't this during Alia's graduation? Aunt Farah, Leona, you said you couldn't afford to go. Lena, I remember Alia posting she was celebrating alone. And you were in Europe? Then came silence. For about an hour, no one said anything. It was as if the entire group chat collectively paused to put pieces together. And then the flood started. People weren't just upset, they were furious. I had cousins texting me on the side asking if I was okay. An aunt who lives in Canada called me, nearly in tears, saying, "We had no idea, sweetie. I would have come to your graduation if I knew you were going to be alone." But the most surprising reaction came from my grandmother, who almost never comments on anything. She wrote, "This was shameful. Alia worked so hard. We should have celebrated her." That single message set the tone. Finally, after hours of silence, my mom responded in the group. "This isn't the place for this. We don't appreciate being misrepresented." No apology. No explanation. Just that. My dad chimed in shortly after. "We don't owe anyone an account of how we manage our finances. Alia is being manipulative. This is a private family matter, and she's turning it into a public show." That's when I realized. They were angry because they were embarrassed, not because they regretted anything. And they blamed me for it. For holding up a mirror to the choices they made. For ruining the polished image they'd worked so hard to maintain in the family. The rest of the family wasn't buying it. Some tried to smooth things over. Others weren't shy about expressing their disappointment. Aunt Farah, so you couldn't spare a bus ticket for your daughter, but you were sipping espresso on a balcony in Florence? Cousin Danny, this is why no one talks to you anymore. The chat went quiet again after that. But behind the scenes, my phone lit up with private messages from my parents. Pages and pages of how I had humiliated them, how I was twisting the truth, and how I needed to take responsibility for turning the family against them. Then came the final message, one that still makes my hands cold just thinking about it. "If you want to fix this, help us pay off the card bill." That would show maturity. Fix it. I was supposed to fix this? They missed my graduation. Lied about why. Used the money they claimed they didn't have to travel Europe with a cousin they treat like royalty. And now, not only did they feel entitled to my money, but they wanted me to apologize to them? The message from my father, "If you want to fix this, help us pay off the card bill." That would show maturity. Kept echoing in my mind. It wasn't just the audacity that got to me. It was the calm entitlement in his words. The way he worded it, like I had created this mess by exposing it. Like I had somehow wronged them by refusing to keep quiet. For a few minutes, I just stared at my phone. Then, very calmly, I put it down and started writing a list. Not an angry, emotional rant. A cold, detailed list. Every time they had used me. Every time they had minimized my achievements. Every time they had borrowed, taken, redirected my efforts away from my goals toward theirs or Nima's. It was longer than I expected. And by the time I reached the bottom of the page, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was clear. They wanted a resolution? I would give them one. But it wouldn't be the kind they expected. The first step in my plan wasn't anything loud or public. It was quiet, purposeful. I started with my scholarship board. I had received a partial academic scholarship from a local foundation that sometimes shared alumni stories on their website. They loved success stories, especially ones about first-generation graduates. So I reached out. I didn't share the whole scandal. Just the truth, that I had worked hard through financial and emotional challenges, that I had graduated alone, and that I wanted to inspire other students who might be in similar situations. They loved it. Within a week, I was featured on their homepage in a spotlight article titled "Quiet Determination: Alia's Path to Graduation." It talked about how I worked multiple jobs, maintained a high GPA, and pushed forward without the kind of family support most people take for granted. They even used one of the graduation photos I took by myself on my phone. I almost cried when I saw it there, this small piece of validation I never got from the people who were supposed to give it freely. I didn't send the article to my parents. I knew they'd find it eventually. And they did. 3 days later, I got a message from my mom. Not angry, not sarcastic, just clipped. "We saw your little article. If you're trying to make us look bad, you succeeded." I didn't respond. A few hours later, another from my dad. You need to stop dragging us through the mud. Family is private. You're being selfish. Selfish. The word almost made me laugh out loud. I had given up so many things to keep the peace with them over the years. I had accepted so little and expected so little in return. But now I was selfish for telling my story. That's when I made my second move. I began quietly collecting every message they had sent me in the last 2 years that hinted at borrowing money, redirecting my savings, or blaming me for their choices. I had dozens of them, some through email, some texts, some even voice messages. I compiled them into a neatly organized folder on my drive. I wasn't planning to go public or anything dramatic, but I wanted them to know that I had receipts, that I was no longer the naive daughter who just swallowed it all. Then I drafted a single message. I will not be sending you money. I am not responsible for the consequences of your choices. Please do not contact me for financial assistance again. If you continue to harass or guilt me, I will take further steps. I didn't elaborate on what further steps meant. Let their imaginations fill in the blanks. I sent it to both of them. Then I blocked their numbers for the first time in my life. It wasn't easy. I stared at the screen after pressing block, and for a moment, I felt like a kid again, like I'd done something wrong and was waiting to be punished. But the punishment never came. Instead, silence settled around me like a soft blanket. The silence didn't last forever, because the family chat woke up again. Apparently, after I blocked them, my parents had begun reaching out to extended relatives, spinning the story, saying I had turned on them, humiliated them, cut them off after everything they'd done for me. But this time, the family didn't fall for it. That article, the one on the scholarship website, had already made the rounds. Some relatives had read between the lines. Others had outright asked me what was going on. I told the truth, not to smear them, just to finally say it. I invited them to my graduation. They told me they couldn't afford it. They were in Europe during the ceremony. I found out from Nima's videos. And now they're asking me to pay off their trip. I included screenshots, a few voice clips, nothing inflammatory, just evidence. Most of my aunts and uncles were quiet after that. A few apologized on their behalf, awkwardly. A couple were clearly horrified and didn't try to hide it. Then came the real twist. One of my cousins, Lala, messaged me privately. She had just turned 20 and was still living at home, 2 blocks from my parents. "Hey, I don't want to stir things up," she wrote, "but your mom's been talking about you at her book club, saying you're bitter and ungrateful and that you're spreading lies about them." I thanked her. And again, I didn't react publicly, but I made another quiet decision. For years, I had been the designated family babysitter, tutor, and tech helper. I had driven across town in the rain to help my mom fix her printer. I had designed the invitations for Nima's failed clothing line launch party. I had rewritten my dad's resume. I had shown up again and again. No more. That weekend, I wrote individual messages to every relative I had ever helped. They were polite, kind, but firm. "Hi, I wanted to let you know that going forward, I'll be stepping back from family favors and responsibilities. I'm focusing on myself and setting clearer boundaries. I appreciate your understanding." The responses varied. Some were sweet. Some were confused. 1 or 2 sent nothing at all. But the most telling thing? Not a single one argued with me, which told me everything I needed to know. Even they had seen how much I gave. They just got used to it, the same way my parents had. My final step was the one I had waited for. I logged into my private social media account, the one I barely used except for close friends, and posted a video. Just a short one. A pan across my quiet living room, my framed degree in the background, the bouquet I bought for myself on the table. I added a caption. "Graduated alone. Built everything alone. Still standing." It wasn't for attention. It was a statement. And this time, I tagged no one. But Nima saw it. Because 2 days later, he posted a reel. I'm on a couch, playing video games, sighing dramatically, saying, "Some people just don't know how to let go of the past." His comments were limited. I didn't respond, because I didn't need to. About a month after I posted the video to my private social media account, I got an email I hadn't expected, but it ended up being the final piece in all of this. The subject line read, "Alumni Speaker Opportunity, Fall Graduation." It was from the department chair at my university. She'd seen the article the Scholarship Foundation had published and said she'd been moved by my story, how I had overcome personal and financial obstacles and still completed my graduate program with distinction. They were inviting me to give the keynote speech at the upcoming fall graduation ceremony. When I read that email, I sat still for a long time. Not because I was unsure about saying yes, but because it felt like everything had come full circle. I had walked the stage alone just months ago, feeling invisible. Now, I'd returned to that same stage, not as a student, but as a speaker, as someone seen. I accepted, of course, but I didn't tell my parents. Not because I was trying to be dramatic, but because they didn't deserve to be there. They had made it clear where their priorities were. I wasn't going to give them another seat to a moment they never valued in the first place. I poured my heart into writing the speech. I didn't make it about them. I didn't need to. I talked about perseverance, about building a future when the people you thought would support you simply don't, about creating your own kind of celebration when no one shows up. I didn't use their names, but I knew they'd feel it eventually. Because once the speech was recorded and uploaded to the university's YouTube channel, it began to circulate. A few education pages reposted quotes from it. The Scholarship Foundation shared it too. Even local news picked up a clip and added subtitles. Against the odds, a quiet voice with a strong message. Then came the final blow. I got a call from an organization I had interned with during grad school. They offered me a full-time position, remote, well-paid, and best of all, with a team that respected me. It was the kind of job my parents never believed I'd get unless I followed their path, which usually meant staying silent, staying available, and putting family first, no matter how that family treated me. When I updated my LinkedIn profile and posted about the offer, congratulatory messages poured in. Some were from former classmates, some from professors, even a few from distant cousins who had watched everything quietly and were now reaching out to say they were proud of me. But then I got another kind of message. This time, it was from a relative I hadn't heard from in years, my mom's cousin Roya. She was polite but direct. Just thought you should know, your parents are trying to get sympathy from extended family, telling people you've cut them off without cause. But most of us have seen the article and the graduation speech, and now your new job post. No one believes them anymore. I'm sorry they've made you the villain in their story, but you're not. They are. I read that last line over and over. They are. It felt like the universe was finally shifting back into balance. For once, I wasn't the one being guilt, manipulated, or asked to sacrifice. I was just living my life. Freely. Without them. That was 3 months ago. Since then, the silence has become permanent. I haven't heard from either of my parents. Not a call, not a letter, not a forwarded message through a cousin. At first, I thought it might be another manipulation tactic. Wait long enough and I'll feel guilty and come crawling back. But I never did. And I won't. I found out from a cousin that they ended up having to take out a loan to pay off their trip expenses. The credit card company had closed their account. Nima has moved back in with them full-time, and from what I've heard, the atmosphere in their house is tense. My dad tried to host a family barbecue recently, and only 2 people showed up. Their image is crumbling, and they know it. And still, they haven't apologized. Because they don't think they did anything wrong. But that's the thing. I've stopped waiting for an apology. I've stopped hoping they'll change. Because I finally realized, after years of disappointment, that some people will never see the damage they've done. Not because they can't, but because they won't. So where does that leave me? I live in a small but warm apartment in the city now. My new job lets me work from home or from cafes with good lighting and quiet corners. I've started saving, really saving, for the first time in my life, and this time, no one can touch that account but me. I'm still in touch with a few cousins, the ones who reached out, the ones who saw. I've built a small circle of friends who've become like chosen family. They show up, they listen, and they celebrate the little things with me. Things my parents never even noticed. Most nights, I don't think about my parents at all. When I do, it's with clarity, not bitterness. I don't wish them harm. I just don't wish to have them near me anymore. Because the truth is, you can love someone from a distance, but you can also protect yourself from them. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't shouting or fighting or trying to prove them wrong. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge is quietly, steadily, building the life they never believed you could, without them. And that's exactly what I've done. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you like this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.